mouth out. Your choice. Those that are speaking, come back here if you will.
Where'd she go? She's going to tell us what looks better.
Yeah, Dawn. She had a meeting at 10. I got my team here. Either way. All right, one more minute and we'll get started. Yes. Okay.
Tom, do you want me to go directly from me to
No, you just turn it back on. I'll take care of it.
Yep.
All right, you guys all ready? Okay, good morning. My name is Tom Blair. I am MoDOT's district engineer in the St. Louis district. My name is spelled Tomblair. Today, we're here to brief everyone on the preparations for the upcoming winter season. We want to highlight some of MoDOT and IDOT's and Missouri Highway Patrol's preparation for the winter weather. You might have noticed around the St. Louis region, our trucks, MoDOT trucks, are driving around with their snow blades on yesterday and today. This drill ensures that our teams are ready for snow removal, and it helps gives us an opportunity to share the importance of what everybody needs to do as they prepare for this upcoming winter season. Now, fighting winter storms and keeping Missouri's roads clear and safe is one of the most critical things that MoDOT and DOTs across the country do. During every storm, all of our snowplow drivers in Missouri are available, and all of our operations are around the clock until all major roads are clear, and we try to get that done as quickly and safely as possible. Statewide, MoDOT has approximately 3,000 employees that are considered snow operators. Those include those that operate the trucks, those that maintain the trucks, such as our mechanics, and a few of our support staff that make it all happen. Now at MoDOT, those 3,000 employees are responsible for clearing snow on 33,808 miles of state routes, the 7th largest state transportation system in the country. Those 3,000 team members are responsible for doing. Now we have to treat each storm individually. Every storm is different. One of the key things about that when I think of staffing is not every storm affects the entire state equally. And as you've heard us speak about previously at MoDOT, we move our 3,000 employees from one part of the state to another part. Thank goodness, and most storms do not impact the whole entire state at the same time, so it gives us that opportunity to move those employees from Hannibal to St. Louis or vice versa, so we can actually move the resources and makes the maximum result that we possibly can. Now with us today we have lots of guests, and one of the guests that's not going to speak, but I want to recognize, is one of our state representatives, George Haruza.
How you doing?
This is George's, Representative Haruza's, this is his area, where we're standing right here in center of St. Louis region. So George, thank you very much.
Thank you. I did just say one thing. Of course, I'm here because a lot of my constituents look at the roads and potholes and so forth, and so when they contact me, I contact you, and MoDOT actually is, I found, very responsive to really get us get things fixed up. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Haruza. All right, now I'm going to go on, and I want to talk a little bit about stacks, and then I'm going to turn it over to National Weather Service. So first, everybody always asks us about how much money we spend and everything on this. So when I look at the last 5 years, 21 through 25 fiscal years, on average, MoDOT spends over those 5 years $48 million a year. Salaries, costs of everything of winter operations. We use on average about 115,000 tons of salt on an average year over the last 5 years. Our employees work on winter operations alone over the last 5 years on average 462,000 hours. And something else that's sort of crazy to think of the number, our employees across the state of Missouri on that 33,808 miles of road, we drive for winter operations on average 4.7 million miles every year, just for winter operations alone, as we're clearing and keeping the roads. On an average winter or last 5 years, the state of Missouri has 9 significant events. On average winter, we're talking about 9 significant events. When I look at last year, because all that average stuff means something, but what about last year? what many of us remember is last year. You might remember last year was a pretty significant year, especially in the month of January. Big significant storm. We actually had to increase the amount of money that we invested, taxpayer money, to keep the roads clear, and we went up $16 million to $64 million that we spent across the state of Missouri in 2025 winter. We used 25 tons more salt, 140,000 tons of salt last year, and we actually increased those miles that those hours that we drove, hours that we worked, up another 67,000 hours. So we were at 529,000 hours worked last year on winter operations. Now I'm going to turn over to one of our guests and our partners, great partners, Kevin Deach. So Kevin's with the National Weather Service. He's going to tell us about what to expect this coming winter.
Thank you, Tom. And yes, Kevin Deitch, Kevindeitsch, and I am the Warning and Coordination Meteorologist at the National Weather Service here in St. Louis. So a lot of people ask, what do you look at to create a winter weather outlook? Well, there's a few things. So one thing we look at are global patterns. Some of you might have heard of El Nino or La Nina. That's one thing that we look at. We also look at past climatology. What has it done in the last 5, 10, 15, 30 years, and how has that trended over time? And finally, we do have modeling that goes out that far. We have global, large-scale models that can give us a glimpse into what we might expect for this winter. So for this winter, we're expected to be in a weak La Nina pattern. What does La Nina mean? Believe it or not, that's actually cooler than normal sea surface temperatures out in the Pacific Ocean. How does that affect our weather? What that does is it shifts the jet stream globally. And so in a La Nina pattern, we expect the jet stream to be pretty much over the state of Missouri. And so we do expect a fairly active pattern for this winter. So what we're looking at is above normal precipitation for this winter. So looking at December, January, and February kind of all together, above normal precipitation. Temperature is a little bit harder to gauge, and that is because we are expected to be in those storm tracks. So if the storm tracks further north, we'll be more on the warm side. The rainy side, tracks further south, will be more on the colder, snowier side. So what we expect kind of how this winter to play out, do you think December will likely be warmer than normal, likely more rainier than normal, above average precipitation? And we do expect more of a backloaded winter for this season, kind of like we saw last year. More storms in January and in February, and that's when we tend to get our kind of colder blasts of air that later half of the winter. So that's what we're looking at for now, and obviously we have a great relationship with MoDOT. Any winter storm that comes through, we're in constant contact with them. We obviously are here, side by side with them doing these press conferences, all to keep Missourians safe and to keep everyone safe on those roadways. So with that, I'll turn it back to Tom.
Thank you, Kevin. We were hoping for better news, Kevin, but thank you.
I never bring it.
Yeah. All right. So, as winter weather storms are forecasted, MoDOT will provide advanced travel information, and we're going to talk more about that as we get closer to the end of this. But we urge Missourians to plan ahead and consider things they need to do to be safe during winter operations. Something MoDOT does do is we do plow snow. We actually prioritize the roads. Many of you probably have heard us talk about this, but interstates and the highest travel volume roads are our first priority and that we clear. Second priority would be our lower volume state routes, especially those numbered routes. And we're always focused on treating hills, curves, and intersections first. And the third priority is after the storms finally stopped, all the precipitation, then we're going to go back out and we're going to clean up shoulders, edges of bridges, ramps, and all those extra movements. In preparation, I want to invite the Highway Patrol Sergeant Andy Gadberry to come up and speak more about what the Highway Patrol does and what advice they have for all of us to stay safe this coming winter weather.
Sergeant Andy Gadberry, ANDYGADBERRY. What we've been doing already, we're already preparing with MoDOT, having meetings and everything. We're going to do the same thing we did last year. We're going to have our troopers, we will schedule heavy when we know that there's a storm coming. We'll have extra troopers come in day or night, whatever we need. We're going to have our trooper with the MoDOT EMR trucks going around responding to incidents. Some incidents might need more people than others. Some might just be slide offs. We can get a truck there quick, and we'll be with those EMR trucks. We'll be dispatching together. What can you do to help yourself? Plan ahead. If we know these big storms are coming, like most of the time, we have a good idea. If you can stay at home, stay at home. Schools are going to cancel. Work might cancel. If you can work from home, that would be great. But make sure, if you do know that you're going to have to travel, make sure your car's ready. Have your car full of gas, have your tires filled up, and all that good stuff. Make sure that you have a fully charged phone before you leave, and in your car you have that emergency kit. You got your blankets, maybe some extra clothes, you have a charger, you have some snacks and water and everything. When you're driving, slow down. All right, when these winter storm hits, obviously, it's going to take you longer to stop when the roads are icy or slush covered. Slow down, give yourself plenty of time to get wherever you're going, whether it be work or family's house or whatever it may be. Give yourself extra time. Give emergency responders, us and MoDOT workers, room to work. They're going to be out plowing. Don't get right up on the back of those trucks. We have a lot of road construction going on right now where before they could push snow into the median and then off onto the shoulder, and now they can't because we've got Jersey barriers up or whatever. So they're going to have 2 trucks going through at a time. Give them room. Stay back off of them. Be visible. Always have your headlights on in these storms, and be aware of your surroundings. Know where you are at all times in case something happens. If you do get stranded, like we talked about, I believe it was just last week with the pedestrian thing that we talked about, you can become a pedestrian pretty quick and on accident. The big thing in these storms is stay in your car. Don't get out unless you absolutely have to. The safest place you can be is inside that car. First off, call for help, whether it be local 911 or star 55 will get us out to you. That's where knowing where you are comes into account, okay? So that you can tell us where we need to respond to. Text and call your family and friends to let them know where you are, just in case something happens and your phone does die. And again, I'll repeat it, stay in your car, all right? Make sure that you stay safe and that we can get to you safely and get you off the road. We're going to do everything we can to help MoDOT out. They're going to do everything they can to help us out. And we just want to keep everybody safe. Turn it back over to Tom.
Thank you, Sergeant. Those are very important messages, so please share those with your family and friends and prepare for this winter weather for what you can do to keep yourself and your family safe. Staffing at MoDOT. Everybody always asks about staffing. I mentioned earlier, statewide, we have 3,000 employees that are dedicated to winter and play critical roles in winter operation and clearing the state highways in, say, Missouri. We continue to seek to fill additional positions that are vacant right now. We are always, it seems like, looking for, especially in the St. Louis region, emergency equipment operators, those individuals that have the skill sets that would like to join the MoDOT team for this winter weather to help plow that snow. We have jobs available on our website at MoDOT.org. We're always looking for full-time maintenance worker positions that do many things, but one of the important things is winter operations. We're always in St. Louis looking for mechanics to help work on our trucks. So if you have that skill set or that desire, please apply. And finally, I put a shout out to our signal and lighting electrician technicians. We have a lot of signals in the St. Louis region that we're responsible for, and lights and everything, and we have a desperate need for additional signal and lighting technicians. One thing I often hear a question of is, well, don't I need a commercial driver's license to work in MoDOT? And in these positions, the answer is yes, but it is not a requirement to get the job. In fact, you can actually, if you're good enough, you can get a job at MoDOT, and we will work with you to get that CDL, that commercial driver's license, for you while you're an employee at MoDOT. So I encourage you, family and friends, to consider a career at MoDOT. As we go into this season, the next thing I get asked all the time is, well, how strong is your team? You told us the numbers, you told us all that, but how strong is your team? When I look statewide at the MoDOT work experience, roughly 16% statewide of our snowplow operators have less than 1 year experience. Let me say again, statewide, roughly 16% of our people that are plowing snow for us have less than 1 year experience. This will, in essence, be their first winter storm when it comes up this year. 40% statewide of our employees have less than 3 years of experience with MoDOT in the snow plowing operations. And when I look at St. Louis here specifically, in the St. Louis region, MoDOT employees have over 50% of our employees. Over 50% of our employees here in St. Louis have less than 3 years of experience with MoDOT. So that's why this last 2 days and all the work we're doing right now before snow flies really matters, is because we have to work really hard to position our employees to be skilled enough to operate. But the thing is going to be, it's really hard to plan for this. Today it's a beautiful day and we're doing snow drill, and that's going to be different than the day when they actually have to perform. So when it gets to actual snow, for our newest employees that have been here for a year or less and haven't done it, in addition to all the training they do today and leading up to the first storm, they're going to have to spend hours riding along with one of our experienced operator, making sure that and getting comfortable. And then we'll let them drive with one of our experienced operators before we turn them loose into that truck. So the experience of this team is about where it was last year, but we still got a lot of work to do because we got a lot of less experienced employees that have to do. So this investment in their training is vitally important, and we appreciate everybody's awareness and support of us while we go through that. The last thing I want to mention before I turn it over to IDOT is that MoDOT is working to minimize barriers. You might notice that around St. Louis region, we have a lot of significant work zones that are active right now. They've been active all year, they're active right now. Many of you might question, well, what are you doing about those as we get into winter weather? Well, the MoDOT team is actively working with our contractors on some major projects to minimize those barriers, specifically those concrete barriers that make it difficult for our employees to push the snow out of the way, make it difficult for us as motorists to drive, especially during inclement weather. Where possible, we're going to get those barriers out of place before snow flies. Where it's not possible, our team is going to have dedicated trucks and snow blowers like you see behind me and other tools. Specifically, some of the ones that we're not going to be able to remove the concrete barriers on that I want to draw to your attention would be the work on I-70 and I-64 out in St. Charles County. There will be concrete barriers through the winter. Our team will have to do extra work to ensure that those lanes stay as clear as possible, but you're going to have to do extra work to be very alert in those areas on I-70 and I-64 in St. Charles County. I-55 in the city, St. Louis County, and Jefferson County. Those areas along I-55 that have concrete barriers now, we're going to do the best we can to mitigate them, but we're going to have to actually drive safe through them, and we're going to put forth extra effort to clear the snow in those areas. Those concrete barriers will still exist. And right near where we are right now today at 270-64, 270 Ladue, however you want to think about it, that work that's been going on for a little over a year now, that work will still be in place throughout this winter weather. So we're going to put forth that extra work. We ask everybody driving through those areas to put forth the extra effort to drive safely, slow down, and do not be on your cell phone, especially during winter weather. Now I'm going to turn it over to our partner across the river, Illinois DOT, and I'm really thrilled to have with us today Dave Castens, the operations field engineer for Illinois DOT.
Thank you. Dave Castens, D-A-V-E-C-A-S-T-E-N-S. As Tom mentioned, I'm operations field engineer for the Illinois Department of Transportation, District 8 out of Collinsville. First of all, thank you for having us here today. It's good, even though we're separate agencies, IDOT and MoDOT, it's good to have a good working relationship. We're dealing with separate issues, sometimes different, yet very similar, so it's good to have a working relationship that we can all work together and communicate on. Same as everyone else, just to get some information out ahead of the snow and ice season. First of all, just some general statements about our situation. We've got more specific numbers, can follow up with either questions on those or hand out to. At IDOT, we're getting prepared each and every day. Getting prepared for winter is something we do year round. As far as staffing, we are continuing our efforts to hire permanent employees. That's an ongoing effort that we're making progress on. To supplement those numbers too, we have done a significant number of our temporary hiring for our seasonal help, and those efforts are ongoing and will be ongoing until and throughout the winter season. But despite any shortages in our permanent employees, staffing levels, we will definitely have plenty of employees. All our routes will be covered. We'll have adequate staff supplemented with our temporary staff. No issues, no concerns as far as having our routes covered and being able to handle our snow removal efforts throughout the winter. Equipment, the same thing. It's an ongoing effort throughout the year to make sure we have the equipment we need, we're acquiring the equipment we need, and at this time of year to make sure it's maintained and ready to go for the winter season. Materials, we've make sure that we have salt on hand. It's already taken place, and have plenty of more quantity available as needed throughout the winter. So again, prepared, no concerns there. It's an ongoing effort. That's what makes it possible. It's an ongoing effort throughout the year. As always, we're prepared to provide the level of service to the Illinois motorists that they expect and deserve throughout the winter season. That will be a priority. Safety obviously top priority, safety of the traveling public, as well as safety of our employees, our men and women out there on the road to doing their job. And I know Missouri Highway Patrol already touched on a lot of the expectations of motorists, so I won't reiterate any of that. To check road conditions, as was stated, gettingaroundillinois.com is our website. That's the place to go for Illinois road conditions. Of course, be sure and check that before you begin your trip, before you plan your trip. Just make that a regular site you check. Yeah, really, just generally, we're looking out for the safety of the traveling public and want to make sure that we're doing everything possible and we're prepared in every way to provide that. That'll be our focus throughout the year, and that's all. Thank you.
Isn't that impressive? If you look behind me, see, we have plenty of salts. We're getting delivered as we actually have a news conference here. That's awesome. Thank you, Dave. I want to add to that. I think something that we do, and everybody always asks me how we do what we do. Well, we start this group here. We start planning on both sides of the river with National Weather Service, with Highway Patrol, and so many others. We start planning at least 48 hours before any forecasted event. At least 48 hours we start planning. We need to do that to prepare our employees, prepare all the equipment and everything so that we can actually react appropriately when the event. That strategic planning is a really important part of what we do. Each storm, we develop a tailored communication plan, and many of you, the media partners here today, are a part of that. So thank you for helping amplify the story and the messages today as we prepare for winter weather, but also what you're going to do in the winter as you help communicate what we need to get out there. We talk about the timing of the actual storm as we lead into that storm. We talk about the type of precipitation, and we talk about the coverage area and the duration of the storm. We're utilizing statewide news releases, social media on both sides of the river, emails to all of our motor carriers. So a lot of people ask me, well, how do you communicate to the trucks? Because the big trucks have an issue. Well, we have specific communication channels to our large motor carriers. And we encourage everybody on both sides of the river to read our dynamic message signs. So if you don't download the apps and if you don't listen to the traditional media and everything and social media, read those dynamic message signs. On both sides of the river, we use those to communicate the most important information. Dave talked about the Illinois website, so I got to talk about the MoDOT website. On the Missouri side of the river, we have a traveler information map, and you can go to MoDOT.org to access it, or you can go to the App Store and you can download the MoDOT traveler information map. That's going to give you the real-time information you need before you actually choose to make that decision, get out on the road during winter operations. And if in doubt, and you don't want to do the map and you don't want to read the signs, you can always call MoDOT at 188-ASK-MoDOT. We are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even through the winter storms, and we will answer that telephone and we will try to help get you answers so you can make an informed decision as to whether you want to get on the roads, what routes you want to take, when the road in front of that you care about might be treated and cleared. So with that, I think we've said everything we need to. I again appreciate you guys covering the story, and we will take any questions.
Tom, you talked about the experience level or lack thereof of a lot of your operators here and statewide. Are you confident that you'll be able to clear roadways with that kind of staffing, and do you have enough to get the job done?
Yes, MoDOT has over 3,000 employees that are focused on winter operations across the state, and yes, we will get the job done. The biggest risk to us, Chris, as far as MoDOT and the vacancies that we have and the experience level we have, is if in fact a storm hits the whole entire state. That's probably what keeps us up at night, is worrying about that. We are not strong enough to hit one storm that hits the whole state. But with the movement of our employees across the state, from different parts of the region to wherever it is being hit, we are strong enough to take care of the winter weather that normally happens in the state of Missouri. If there's some abnormal storm, I'll retract that statement.
Was there anything that happened last year that you kind of take away and learn a lesson from? I remember last year ramps became an issue at some point because there was problems with where to put the snow. Is there a ramp design, or is there something you took away from last year in terms of learning going forward how you can do certain things better, like the ramps?
This machine behind me you might notice is nice and shiny. That's because it hasn't been used yet in a storm. We got that as a result of last year. You might have seen over the years MoDOT across the state, but here in St. Louis too, has used big snow blowers. Unfortunately, snow blowers that we've had in the past, the big trucks, they've been worn out. And I'm really proud to announce that MoDOT was able to make the purchase of snow blower like the one I see behind us. We would have really loved to have had that in our arsenal and everything last year in January during that storm. That would have really helped the team more quickly clear those large amounts of snow and ice that we had pushed to the side of roads, and in many cases were blocking acceleration lanes, deceleration lanes, and even ramp lanes. We had to actually do a lot of different things to get that heavy amount of winter precipitation out, and now we have some new tools in the toolbox, and I know our team's really excited about having those. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't have to use them, but if we do have those tools.
What does that do? Is it like stationary in one place and just kind of blows, or what are we looking at?
Yeah, it's a big snow blower, just like some around the St. Louis region might have to help clear out their driveways, sidewalks, stuff like that. This is a gigantic one hooked to our loader, and so yes, it will actually chew up the snow, blow it out wherever we want to. It can blow it into areas, but also can blow into our trucks so that we can haul the actual accumulated snow away.
How many snowblowers do you have now, and how many did you get last year?
I'm looking to my experts. How many snow blowers do we have now? Okay, so I think we have 5 of these across the state, and again, we move them from one part of the state in before the storm starts. We start meeting before the storms actually. Once Kevin predicts them, then all of a sudden we're spending midnight oil trying to figure out where do we move our resources, including the 5 snow blowers that we have all across the state, so they can have the biggest impact.
Last year's was sleet, and then it got piled up on the side of the road and it just froze. It's hard to plow. Will this take care of that?
Yes, this will help with that. This will help with that, especially if we can get to it fast enough. And if we pre-deploy them, then we can get to it. Again, the biggest risk we have is a statewide storm that hits the entire state. Otherwise, we are prepared. We will be prepared to handle regional storms, and we'll move our resources, including equipment and people, to wherever that storm is going to hit in the state of Missouri.
Did you say you had to increase the money from $16 million, I'm just going to clarify, $60 million to $64 million?
Yes.
Was that because of the January storm, or was that because of the...
Well, when I look back at last year, we actually had this similar number of events, around 9 events, but the January storm, yeah, that chewed up a lot of money, a lot of time. We drove a lot of miles, so the January storm was the differentiator. And that's why we spent more money, I expect, on both sides of the river last year than normal. Any other questions for any of us? Otherwise, I assume we'll all be around for a few minutes, and you guys can work with our team to get some B-roll and everything. Jack's in charge here, so thank you all very much.
I can show you the snowblower and, of course, the salt deliveries that are taking place right now. Thank you, guys.